By the time Alex managed to get the blood out of her good wool coat, it was too warm to wear it. Ninth House is about the magical secret societies of Yale University, so I texted one of my friends who went to Yale to confirm. I asked, "Which Yale society are you a member of?" And she said, "A very small all-women society. Why?" And I said, "I'm reading a book. It says Yale has secret societies." And she said, "It does indeed, but there are like big important ones, and then there are little ones that don't really do a lot." So I said, "Yeah, like monsters and magic and ghosts ones. Yours wasn't monsters one." She said, "Exactly, and very few ghosts." Then I asked, "Did you kidnap people from the hospital and experimented on them?" "Not frequently," she said. Lame. Okay, so my friend wasn't cool enough to be in a monsters and magic society, but all the large societies in this book have their own type of magic, which we'll talk about later. But first, what is Ninth House about? Ninth House is an urban fantasy horror story about Galaxy, or Alex for short, Stern, who has dropped out of school and has to live with her drug abuser friends, until one day she finds herself in a hospital bed with an offer from the Yale University in New Haven. The thing with Alex is she can see the dead. And that's a highly rare and sought-after talent in Yale's secret magical ghost societies. Because you see, there are 8 big houses who deal with all sorts of different magic. And then there is the Ninth House, which is in charge of monitoring them to make sure they don't do something completely bonkers. So they want to recruit Alex's talents. Most of the book is through the viewpoint of Alex, with some chapters through her mentor's viewpoint, who's a senior student at Yale. One important thing to note is that this book isn't YA, even though you can see the YA book snake on the cover, so don't be fooled by that. It's a pretty basic cover with a very generic snake. I have a video where I reverse designed this whole cover pretty exactly. I mean, it's perfectly exact. I'll link it in the description if you'd like to check it out. But I found out there are several books that use the same exact snake, and I'd rather have a more original cover. The UK covers are a little bit better, but still. I think the snake is because one of the societies in this book is called Book and Snake, so it's not irrelevant. I'd rather have a different snake, but I talk about it more in that other video if you're interested. But yeah, despite the snake, it's not YA, it's adult fantasy. It has a lot of graphic scenes. Make sure to check out the content warnings. It gets pretty graphic. You might not expect it if you're a fan of Leigh Bardugo's Grisha books. The main plot of the book is somewhat like a murder mystery. There's a mysterious murder in school grounds, and Alex is trying to solve the murder, while also trying to figure out if any of the societies are responsible for it. But the book deals with much more than that. It's about trying to fit in as an outcast, but then finding your own self and embracing it to stop pretending so that you can just be yourself. If you read Six of Crows, you'll remember all the flashbacks and backstories, and this book is similar. The whole story is told in flashbacks. It takes place in a span of a year, and it keeps jumping through time back and forth. As in Six of Crows, this still had the effect of taking me out of the immediate story, but also as in Six of Crows, these backstories are great. And the way that time jumps are structured is not random. Whenever there's a time jump, it either reveals something about the chapter before or reveals about the chapter that is following. The time jumps are pretty clear. It's easy to follow and not confusing at all, but as I said, they do interrupt the flow a bit. The magic system in this book is somewhat rule-based in the sense that you kind of know what each house focuses on, but like a lot of the magic in this book is either super lame or super cheesy. For example, there is one house who kidnaps people from hospitals and dissects them to predict the stock market. They stitch them up and send them back later. There's one house that does this whole complex ritual to fix someone's writer's block? Don't get me wrong, I'd love to have a spell to fix my writer's block, but if anyone ever finds out that magic exists, but it lets you predict the stock market using someone's intestines, please don't tell me and destroy my dreams. I'd rather not know. And the cheesy magic is like shape-shifting into animals or like illusion. There was the Portal guy, so their magic is kind of cool, I guess. But honestly, I found most of the magic in this book quite uninspired. I guess it makes sense that they have stock market magic at Yale, because Alex is the only regular person at the school. Everyone else is incredibly entitled and self-important, rich brats. I mean, I didn't go to Yale, and Leigh Bardugo did, so maybe Yale is actually like that, but it's just incredibly annoying to read about all these incredibly privileged, entitled people, especially because there isn't much else to their characters. Which brings us to another point. There aren't a lot of interesting characters in this book. It's mainly Alex, her mentor Darlington, and maybe that other person in their society, but that's pretty much it. The reason that was unfortunate for me was because I really like Leigh Bardugo's dialogue and scene writing. And don't get me wrong, there are glorious scenes in this book as well, but they're just too few. Because there aren't a lot of characters to interact with each other. Most of the book, Alex is alone and it's just her internal thoughts. And she is an interesting character, but I'm not a huge fan of internal thoughts. I like it more when character shows through interaction. And Leigh Bardugo does it so well, I wanted to see more in this book. Even though this book didn't have as many great scenes as, for example, Six of Crows, it still has some really powerful scene writing that definitely stayed with me. It is coherent, it has somewhat diverse characters, even though not many. I mean, how come there are no international students at Yale? It's such a missed opportunity. Which brings us to the fact that the world of this book is interesting, but it's a little bit small. Like, even though all these societies basically appropriated their houses after much older cultures, such as Greek, Egyptian, or Middle Eastern, only they have magic, and the Yale alumni rule the world or something. But there is no magic in Cairo University, because they're not Ivy League, and there are no rich brats there. Like, New Haven was settled in around the 17th century. It barely has any history compared to Egypt. And they have the magic? I just think it's a huge missed opportunity, but I hope the world will expand in the later books, and maybe we'll have the Egyptian student wiping the floor with these rich brats using her 5,000-year-old ancient magic. Also related to the expansion in the next books, unfortunately, there is a trope I hate in this book. I hadn't included it in my 5 fantasy tropes I hate video, but it is the heritage trope. So Alex has a dad who she never met, and it's not a big part of this book, but I guess it might have some part in the future books. And I'm gonna be upset if Alex's abilities are because of her father. If that happens, we'll roll our eyes in the next book, but not a huge part of the current book. Overall, I enjoyed this book, read it really fast, and added it to my personal picks this year. I can definitely recommend it if you'd like to read an urban ghost magic murder mystery story. Not much romance in this book, so if you like romance, you might be disappointed. Very small world, so if you're into complex world building, you might get disappointed. Somewhat uninspired magic system, so if you're into more elaborate magic, you might get disappointed. But I like what it is, and gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. I'm a little bit biased towards Leigh Bardugo. I particularly like her writing, but please, if you read it, let me know your thoughts in the comments. And that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like to let me know, and if you want to see more bookish content nobody asked for, don't forget to subscribe, and hope to see you next time.